Now we just got news for who is going to be the All-Star starters for the 2023 All-Star Game. Not just the starters, but we also got the captains of the East and West, or voted from the East and West. But the reserves aren't going to be announced until February 2nd. So I thought it would be a great time for me to say who I think the reserves from the Western Conference and Eastern Conference should be. Quick disclaimer, this is my list, okay, and it's my opinion.
Ain't no fucking way.
So don't feel the need to have to bash me if your favorite player is not on here, or if well, yeah, that's pretty much the only reason why you would bash me if your favorite player did not make my reserve list. But it's my opinion. I have an opinion. You have an opinion. We should respect that. And also, we shouldn't be like defending these grown ass men like there are significant others. Like we're willing to take a bullet for them because we don't have them in our respective all-star list. Like, that's kind of OD. Like, there's no reason to come at me and attack me for thinking somebody should be an all-star over somebody else. Got me feeling like 50 Cent when he gets attacked by Floyd Mayweather.
I'm like, what did he say fuck me for?
But nonetheless, let's get into the reserves list. So, actually, for full disclosure, I do want to say who I thought should have been the starters in the East and West. Starting with the West, I personally had Ja over Steph, mainly because I think Ja is an MVP candidate, given that the Grizzlies are first or second in the Western Conference. I think that warrants Ja being an all-star starter over Steph, and Steph has missed a few games, and the Warriors are down to around 8 or 9 in the Western Conference, so I would give it to Ja over Steph, and Luka is also my other starter in the backcourt. I also had Braun and Jokic, but I had Sabonis over Zion for that last front court spot because the Kings have overperformed. They've shocked everyone, myself included. I was really down and discrediting the Kings coming into the season. I thought they were going to have another underwhelming season, miss the playoffs, and they eventually have to blow it up. And they're third in the West. They've made me look stupid. I own up to that L, and I think Sabonis deserves an all-star starting spot because of how good the Kings have played, and given the fact that he's pretty much having a career year. As for the East, I had Mitchell and Kai in the backcourt, Tatum and Giannis in the front court, but I had Embiid over KD because, honestly, Embiid is another all-star or MVP candidate. The 76ers are second in the Eastern Conference. Embiid is leading the league in scoring. And I think Embiid and Durant have played a similar amount of games. They both had injuries and been out of the rotation, but they played a similar amount of games, and I just would have gave the nod to Embiid over KD in the starting lineup. But that's just me. Now getting into the actual reserves that I think should be here, starting with the backcourt. So there's 2 backcourt spots, 3 frontcourt spots, and then 2 wildcard spots that can go to anybody, not based off of position. So for the 2 backcourt spots, I have Ja and Shea. Kind of explained it for Ja already, MVP candidate. I personally had him as a starter, but it's fine. And then Shea, he could easily be a starter as well, given that Shea's having a career year. 30 a game on plus 50% from the field is really impressive for a point guard in today's game. And he also has OKC fighting for a playoff spot in a really competitive Western Conference 7 through 10. Moving to the front court, the 3 spots I have filled by Lowry, Sabonis, and Paul George. As for Lowry Markkanen, I mean, the Utah Jazz shocked the world early on. They kind of slid in the standings. I think they're fighting for a play-in spot now, but I had them at 15th in the Western Conference coming into the league, or coming into the season, and they've exceeded expectations still, and Lowry Markkanen is a big part of that for sure. He's averaging 25 a game. Damn near 50, 40, 90 for a 7-footer is insane, giving me Dirk Nowitzki vibes. And he's definitely the most improved player at this point in the season, and he's probably going to win the award barring any injury. Next I have Sabonis, kind of similar to why I had him as my starter. Third in the West. The Kings are third in the West, led by Sabonis and Fox. Career year for Sabonis, averaging a career high in assists per game, rebounds per game, and field goal percentage. He's much improved on the defensive end, and I had him as a starter. He's not going to get that spot, so he still should get the reserve spot. Another shout out to Sabonis and Fox for getting third in the West, because I was really critical of them. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs or even the play-in tournament. And for the last front court spot, I have Paul George. Now, I had the Clippers as championship contenders, my championship favorite, coming into the season because of what I thought would be a healthy Kawhi and Paul George. Obviously, that's not been the case, and Kawhi is still like kind of getting back to the Kawhi we all know and love, but it's taking him a lot more time than I originally thought it would be. He's had to be load managed early on in the season, been in and out of the rotation. And Paul George has also missed time, but he hasn't missed as much time as Kawhi Leonard. And yeah, he's pretty much always been their primary scoring option without Kawhi out there. And he's done so efficiently, still impactful as a defender, no longer a lockdown defender. He's not going to take on the best defensive matchup every night. But I mean, he's still a consistent bucket, and he has the Clippers with the playoff spot, I think, at either the 5 or 6 seed. So we got to give PG some credit for that. Now for the 2 wildcard spots, out west can go to any position. I have De'Aaron Fox and Damian Lillard. Yeah, I have the Kings getting 2 All-Stars. I think they deserve it, man. I think Sabonis and Fox are equally responsible for how good the Kings have been this year. And you can debate who's the better player between the two, but it can't be debated that they're the 3rd seed. Shocked everybody's expectations, and I have them both as all-star reserves. And lastly, Damian Lillard. I mean, I feel like everybody's forgotten about Damian Lillard due to all of the surges of the young point guards. De'Aaron Fox having, winning success for the first time of his career, so he's on everybody's mind. Shea dropping 30 a game, and Ja being in the MVP discussion. So those 3 point guards are more in the face of everybody in the media, mainstream media, and Dame's kind of been forgotten about, given that the Trailblazers are, I don't know if they're underperforming because I didn't have them making the playoffs coming into the season, but it's a usual year for the Trailblazers and Dame, and we kind of take Dame for granted, and he's kind of been forgotten about, but I think he reminded us of who he is with that 60-point outburst. Those are all my reserves out west. I think the injury replacement for me would be Anthony Edwards. The Timberwolves are having a down season in a lot of people's eyes, but this is pretty much where I thought the Timberwolves would be coming into the season. I didn't have them as a playoff team, and they're currently 9th in the Western Conference. I think I had them at either 9, 10, maybe 8 or something. I had them in that range, and that's where they are. Nonetheless, Anthony Edwards has been a consistent bucket, and he's still doing his thing on the offensive end despite all of the turmoil that has been in Minnesota. So he would be my injury replacement. The snubs for me are Devin Booker, just not enough games played. Jamal Murray, because the Nuggets are first in the Western Conference, and you could argue that they deserve 2 All-Stars, but his statistical line isn't really it isn't at the tier of all the other reserves I selected. Anthony Davis, really impactful when he's played, but when he's only played like 25 or 26 games. He's come back now, but those games played I think should hold him back a little bit. CJ McCollum, though Zion is an all-star starter, CJ deserves a lot of credit for holding down the fort while Zion has been out of the lineup, which has been multiple times in the season. So I think CJ deserves some recognition, but he's getting snubbed. Jeremy Grant has also had a good statistical season, but the Trailblazers are really bad, so you can't give them 2 All-Stars. Triple J has been really good, especially on the defensive end. I think he's in the deep point conversation, so I have him getting snubbed. And then Christian Wood deserves some recognition. He's probably the 6th man of the year. Either him or Poole, but I think Poole started too many games. Christian Wood's been really impactful offensively, coming off the bench most of the time for Dallas, so he deserves some consideration. Now, moving out east to my reserves, my 2 backcourt spots I have are Tyrese Halliburton and Trae Young. Now, Halliburton is the only player averaging 20 and 10 right now. He's leading the league in assists, and he has the Pacers smack dead in the playoff race. I had them at 13th in the Eastern Conference coming into the season, and yeah, they've overperformed. And you can call this my Indiana Pacers franchise series bias, but I mean, I think he's definitely an all-star reserve. I don't think anybody can argue that, especially not Wally Szczerbiak. 20 and 10, damn near on 50, 40, 90. As for Trae Young, I mean, his efficiency has been rough, and the Hawks have underperformed. Still a defensive liability, but he's still averaging 27 and 9, which is incredibly hard to do. And the Hawks are a playoff team. I think they're 8th in the Eastern Conference, so they're currently a playoff team. They deserve a starter, or not a starter, they deserve an all-star. and I think Trae Young should get the nod. Now my front court spots are going to be Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, and Bam Adebayo. Don't got to talk much about Joel Embiid. I thought he should have been a starter, given that he's leading the league in scoring and Philly is second in the Eastern Conference. But he's going to get the reserve spot nonetheless. Jaylen Brown is one of the best two-way wings in the entire league, giving you 26 points per game and taking on defensive challenges night in and night out, locking down opponents. He's a two-way bucket. The Celtics are first in the Eastern Conference. They deserve 2 All-Stars. For the last front court spot, I have Bam Adebayo. Now, I critiqued Bam to start the season. I thought if the Heat were going to take a next step or just be another playoff team in the Eastern Conference, while the Eastern Conference improved, Bam would have to improve his game as well. And he's done so, dropping 20 and 10, and doing a lot of this when Jimmy Butler has missed time, and he's kept Miami afloat. Not only has he kept Miami afloat, he's moved them up in standing. I think when Jimmy was going through his injury, Miami was around the 9 or 10 seed, and they're currently 6th in the Eastern Conference. And Bam deserves a lot of credit for keeping them afloat and putting them smack dead in the middle of the playoff race. Now for my 2 wild card spots in the Eastern Conference, I have them going to Julius Randle and Pascal Siakam. So you can debate between Brunson and Randle. I'm just going to give it to Randle. He had an underwhelming season last year, and he faced a lot of criticism, not only from the media, not only from NBA fans in general, but NBA fans, New York Knicks fans, he faced probably the most criticism from. And he's bounced back. He's responded in tremendous fashion, improving to 25 points per game and 11 rebounds per game while improving his efficiency from last year. With help from Brunson and Barrett, Randle has led this team to a playoff spot. And not to mention, he's played all 50 games to start the season, or throughout the season, he's played all 50 games for the Knicks, while Thibodeau has been running him into the ground at 36 minutes a night. So Randle deserves a lot of credit for his play. And I have the last wild card spot out. He's going to Pascal because he's having a career year, man. Points per game, highest it's been. Assists per game, highest it's ever been. And he's doing all this while having to play the center position, which is where he should not be, but he's had to do so because the Raptors don't have a starting caliber center. So he deserves credit for balling out of position. And sure, the Raptors are 12th in the Eastern Conference, but that's mainly due to, underwhelming performances from Scotty Barnes from his rookie to sophomore season, and Fred VanVleet being relatively inefficient, honestly, and not having a true starting 5. But we should not discredit this amazing season from Pascal. The first injury replacement I have as DeMar DeRozan. He's still balling out. His numbers have not dropped off from last year to this year, but the Chicago Bulls standing has dropped off from last year to this year, mainly due to injuries, and Lonzo Ball still, not playing. So the snubs out east are going to be James Harden. I don't think he's played enough games, honestly, even though, Philly's second and they do deserve 2 All-Stars, but I don't know if he's played enough games. Darius Garland, the Cavs kind of fell off, not entirely. They're still around 5 or 6 in the East, but they fell off from the 2nd to 3rd range that they were hovering around to start out the year. And yeah, I can't give Cleveland 2 All-Stars for being a 6th seed. Brunson, you could give it to Brunson or Randle, whoever you prefer. Drew Holiday, I think deserves some consideration because, Giannis has missed some time, Middleton's missed some time, and Holiday's kind of been the steady rock for that team, keeping them in the home court advantage of the first round realm in the Eastern Conference. Jimmy Butler deserves some consideration, but I think he's just missed too much time, and his stat line doesn't really compare to the guys that I have as reserves. I know you can't completely put the impact that Jimmy has in a stat sheet, but still, DeJounte should get some consideration. He's had a good year. Same with Levine and same with Kuzma. He deserves some consideration. But yeah, those are my all-star reserves. Really interested to see how accurate I do get this. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do not come at me and attack me. Just respectfully agree. That's all you got to do. If you did like the video, leave a like, and if you want to see more of this content, subscribe. Catch you later.